Good evening, everyone. How's everybody doing?
Good evening, Prof.
Good evening, sir.
Hi, good evening. Real well. Thank
Good.
you. How are you too?
Happy
Great.
Friday.
Happy Friday. All right. Appreciate everybody's time. We are starting here shortly. So we have a whole army of cybersecurity professionals who are going to help us walk through the tools they use on the job. So kindly stay tuned, and we are going to kickstart time now. All right. Yeah, you're welcome, everyone. I appreciate everybody's time. We were doing some admin stuff, trying to push it on YouTube, and you're still admitting people trying to join. So you are warmly welcome. This is Eretmis Cyber Chat. We do this every Friday night. And like I always say, you could have been anywhere, but you chose to be here with us to share in the knowledge and also to grow as a security professional. And we appreciate that. And you are doing the part of being a continuous being a lifelong learner, right? Right, we're a lifelong learner in the security space. So we appreciate your time. Now tonight, we will jump through and do some housekeeping, and then we will jump straight into it because we have a lot of panel members, and some of them will be leaving a little bit early, so we'll give them the chance to go through. That way, they'll be able to leave and attend to other business. So you are very much welcome. Let's get started. So tonight we are going to be looking at cybersecurity tools. So there are a whole variety of cybersecurity tools based on what you do in cybersecurity. You might encounter one tool or the other, and we are going to hear it from folks who are working in the industry, from the different positions that they are in and the tools that they are using to perform their duties. So that is what we are going to be looking at tonight. And this month is still October Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and this is part of our cybersecurity awareness exercise that we are going through. Although we still do cyber chat throughout the whole entire year, but we encourage you to still continue to spread the word in terms of some of the best practices in security, how to protect yourself and your family in the security space, right? And with that, we are still our uh, October awareness sale is going on until the 20th of this month. So if you want to jump onto any of our courses, you can kindly do so with some discount before it goes away, right? And this is brought to you by Eretmis Academy. We are a cybersecurity institute based in New York, and we have a very large community. And everybody on here, almost everybody on here is part of the Eretmis family. But if you're joining us for the first time, you're still part of the Eretmis family, and we appreciate your time. And I'm going to be your host for tonight. I have a lot of panel members, but no co-pilot for tonight. I'm Dr. Emmanuel Edu. I'm the CEO of Eretmis Inc., a cybersecurity consulting firm, a QSA company, and also the founder of Eretmis Academy, both institutions based out of New York. I'm a former United States Army captain, and I'm a member of Forbes Technology Council, and then also a former professor at University of Maryland Global Campus and CTC. And Eretmis Academy, we are partners with CompTIA, and what that means is that we afford or we give 20% discount on all exams vouchers that you want to purchase to sit for any of the CompTIA exams. So unfortunately, other companies that run these certifications, they don't have any such, partnership and discounts. So only CompTIA has this as of now. So we partner with CompTIA to help you save some little money here and there, right? And also for continuous education, if you are joining us tonight, you can put in the chat Team Live, hashtag Team Live, and take a screenshot of it. You can use that for continuous educational points if you have to renew any certification that you've sat for previously. Now for certifications, if you sit for one, every 3 years you have to renew. So you can either sit for the exam again, or you can choose to use webinars like this as continual educational points to be able to renew your certification, right? And we have a WhatsApp group, a Eretmis WhatsApp group. We are almost full, but some people keep dropping up and dropping out, and we keep adding more folks as we move along. And our YouTube channel, that is where we transmit most of what we are doing on Cyber Chat on, and then also all previous Cyber Chats, you can find it on our YouTube channel. Kindly subscribe and share share the word and spread the channel. It has really good info on there for anybody who is anticipating to either start a career in the cybersecurity space, or if you're already in the industry and you want to grow, right? So tonight, still looking at Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and we are going to jump straight into what we are going to be discussing for tonight. So tools, cybersecurity tools. I think we did a session like this sometime last year, but we are going to revisit it again with different. I think we've mixed up the variety, and the good part about this is most of I think a good chunk of the panel members, or probably half or 4 or 5 of them last year around this time, they were students who were looking to, get an opportunity in the security space, and they were listening to other people talk about tools they are using. Now they are back talking about tools that they are using on the job. So if you are waiting to, get a cybersecurity role, probably next time is going to be you in the hot seat discussing what you are doing in the security space, right? So the tools that we are going to be looking at tonight, it will differ from, role to role. And before we jump into that, some housekeeping for folks who are looking to jump into the cybersecurity or do a career switch. We encourage you to join our cybersecurity entry-level course. It comes with hands-on internship and then also job placement assistance, where we help you find a job, and also we train you. You are going to get that working experience as a security professional by going through the internship, right? And then also for folks who are looking to specialize, our PCI DSS course is PCI DSS itself is one of arguably the most lucrative niches in the security space. So jump onto this also as well if you want to specialize in an area of cybersecurity. And then for our GRC internship, we started our new cohort already. A new one is starting, I think, on the 23rd of October, 23rd of November as well. So if you are looking to bridge the gap between knowledge and skill, right? You have the knowledge, you have some certifications, you did some training already, but can you really do the job when you are given the opportunity or the chance, right? One myth that people, peddle around is that they are going to train you on the job. They are going to train you or rent you on what they do as a company. They are not going to teach you cybersecurity or teach you how to do your job. Nobody's going to pay you 100K and up and babysit you on how to do your job, right? So you have to get these skill sets, actually do some work on projects. That way, during interviews, you can speak to it. And then also on the job, you'll be able to function and perform effectively. So with that, we are going to move into tonight's discussion. So we will switch to our panel. I'm going to run through and, call out our panel members, and then I'll call them individually. So how we are going to run it tonight is we will have each of them introduce themselves, what they do as a security professional, and then they can walk us through some of the tools or all the tools that they use, right? So we will guide them through, and if there are any questions, at least 1 or 2 questions, and then we move on to the next panel member. Or if any of the panel members are using a similar tool and they also want to chime in whilst their colleague is speaking, they can also do so. And for some housekeeping items, if you want to ask a question, kindly raise your virtual hand. We will allow you the chance to ask your question. So that way we are not stepping over each other and talking over each other, right? So I think that sounds like a plan. So with that, we are going to introduce our panel members. And for tonight, we have, so not in any specific order, but we have Benis, Bettina, Teresa, Kwame, Felix, Frank, Michael number 1 couldn't make it, and we have Isaac, and then Michael, and then we have I think I'm missing Kenny. Yes, Kenny. He gave me a shot. So Kenny, yes, Kenny. So Kenny is last on the list here. Last but not the least, we are going to start with Kenny because Kenny has an appointment that he has to attend to, right? So these are panel members. We're shooting for, I think, like 5 or 6, but we are blessed to have all these resources internally within the Eretmis family, and they are going to help us learn more about cybersecurity tools. So without wasting much time, Kenny, I'm going to give you the floor. So if you can kindly introduce yourself and how long you've been with the Eretmis family and what you are doing now as a security professional, and then walk us through some of the tools that you use. And if we have any follow-up questions on the tools, we are going to let you know. That way we can cut Kenny loose. All right, Kenny, please kindly go ahead. Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, you hear me? Okay. So my name is Kenny Noisette. Been in cybersecurity for 2.5 years now. I'm a cybersecurity analyst for a government contractor. So been on this contract for 2 years, and basically my daily roles is it doesn't a little bit of GRC when it comes to meetings, and filling in spots where managers can't fill with the government. And day to day, I deal with security tools such as Nessus, Tenable Nessus, um, App Detective, and Web Inspect. So basically, web application scanning, and using Nessus. I say we interchange using Nessus and App Detective to scan the servers, um, the ports, like any type of host on our network. So
Okay, Kenny. So what about for communication? What do you guys, in terms of like ticketing tools, do you have any ticketing tools that you use?
yeah, for ticketing, we basically use Confluence and Jira as our way to to communicate what's going on any of our releases. So we basically use like a web. It's pretty much the web development life cycle that we use. But in between that, we're scanning the lower environments before any updates go into production.
Okay. So, and then also if we can learn just a little bit about like what your company does. You are talking about software development lifecycle. Like, do you have developers that you are working with? Is your company developing software for the contract that you're on?
So we don't actually develop, like it's more so upkeep and updating, the environments and updating any type of upgrade. There's always updates that need to be done on a biweekly basis. So it's basically running in sprints, new update that the government's doing. So.
Okay. And so for Nexus, uh, Nexus is a vulnerability scanning tool for
Yes.
everyone. And for like you guys use that to scan your own environment to see vulnerabilities or to scan the government network that you are working with, or is like specifically just to test your software that you are, or like the software that you are manning for the government?
Yeah, so basically it's more of, like you said, vulnerability management, but more so it's our way to schedule the scans, um, push policies, view scan findings. We take those results, we give it to those any of the guys that are working on doing updates, DBs, engineers, and then they can go check with I can't even think about like any type of vulnerability that they have to look up. We have like the vendor list of the solutions for the plugin IDs. So they would match the solution to the plugin IDs. It's and pretty much we do that for whatever environment that we're working on. So whatever release that needs to be done for that day, you would basically enter your through the IP address, you would enter that information about whatever link that's being worked on, and you would plug it into the software tool, and then you would let it run. And then after you let it run, you have a timestamp of how long it took, um, what type of vulnerabilities you have, so low, medium, high. And then once the results are printed out, then we have a sheet that we use to basically keep record of that vulnerability, and then that sheet is sent to the other team through Jira and Confluence.
Okay. And in terms of Microsoft tools, what Microsoft tools do you use? Like Excel, PowerPoint, any of
We
those?
use mostly Excel. Yep, it's just Excel. So all our findings right now are on Excel. So pretty much you have to be good with mining Excel, being able to, find different different types of operating systems because we have a master spreadsheet.
Okay. So for like when you do your scan, you guys move the results to the Excel sheet to be able to manage it. And then also that helps. I mean, for folks, this is for people to be able to link like the relationship between these tools. So without Excel, how best do you think you'll be able to move around and do whatever you are doing with the results that you get?
Until there's something new that comes out, we need the Excel because it's easier to for right now. It's easy to track the work that's done and on all the scans that are um producing these vulnerabilities. So we actually have many sheets. So it's not just one or two. You have many sheets on a daily basis, and by the end of the quarter, you have to look back at all these scans and they have to be on record for any type of audits and anything that the government wants to check on, how these scans were being done, timestamps, when and how, and so forth.
Okay. Okay. And is there any advice that you have for everybody on here in the family in terms of how did you know how to use all these tools before you got on the job? Like how did you go about it? Your first day on the job, the tools, how did you, some situation awareness, how did you fit into the job, with these tools? Like what did you do to prep yourself to be able to use these tools as you got on the job?
Well, you can't, I mean, you can prep yourself by, you know, before you get an interview or, after the interview and before you start the job, but that'd be tough. It's best to learn the tools beforehand, before you get in the industry. Like with you, I took I took a few classes, even though I didn't complete, like the PCI, but you have to have coursework done, and I sometimes I reference the Eretmis hands-on course, even the beginners course sometimes. Like if I'm stuck, I'll just go back to the beginners course because even though I'm not working on for an example, like there's a certain area of cybersecurity that I'm not currently working on, but if it pops up in a meeting and I need to have some type of reference, I'll go back to the Eretmis. I'll go into my account that I have with Eretmis and go back to the free the free course or the course that I paid for. So I think you need to have coursework for the hands-on tools. Because if even though I'm an analyst now, if I want to transition to a cybersecurity, a full-time cybersecurity engineer, you have to know all the tools. But because right now I'm just using a few tools, but it's best to take a course from schooling and learn the tools that way. So you can learn a plethora of Wireshark, Metasploit, um, different different types of tools to help you learn like red team stuff. If you want to work on the attack surface, like Kali Linux, Splunk, you know. So if you want to learn blue team, which is more defensive, and red team more offensive, you want to know every tool that's possibly out there because you don't know which tool your company is going to require, um, or the CISO what he has in mind. So you want to be ready.
Okay. Thank you, Kenny. So before we let you go, there's a question in there for you. Somebody is asking, there are many tools out there. So how do you get to know the tool that your company is working with, right? As you are prepping for.
Mhm.
And before Kenny gets in, I think mostly they will put that in your job description. If they say you should be familiar with these tools and they mention two or three, those two are probably the ones they are using. But Kenny, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I was gonna say that typically it will be in the job description, and even if it wasn't, they'll have a staff on hand that has been using it before or that has knowledge and they're privy to it, and they'll go over it with you. Cybersecurity is not just something that you could just, I mean, some people could do it, but it's hard to just go in and then automatically someone just shows it to you right there and you just get it. It takes some time. It might take you a few weeks, to sometimes even months to just get it down, get the process down. So you're able to, scan correctly, get results. So that's why I think beforehand, before you go to get a job, it's best to do coursework on hands-on tools. So I think, like what Dr. Do has is great, with Eretmis. He's been doing it for years. So you get expertise teachings over here. So
All right, Kenny. So this month, October, Cybersecurity Awareness Month, what would you say your transition as you transition into cybersecurity? And if you can just give us a little background of where you were and how you transitioned, how has it paid off? I mean, how is your life in cybersecurity now? And as a career move, your advice, and then we can let you go.
yeah, so I would say I was in the healthcare industry before. So it's it was a great change to make to cybersecurity because what I was doing was a lot more stressful than, what I'm doing now. There's a lot of job satisfaction in cybersecurity, because, you feel like you're doing something, that's very rewarding, for your company or like for my situation, for government. So it's rewarding in that aspect that your daily job is important, protecting, networks and infrastructure. And so I would say it's very different from other industries. And it's very rewarding because when I was working at a health insurance, dealing with, outdated paperwork, outdated tools, it gave experience, but when you're in cyber, you're constantly learning, and I think it develops you as a professional. So right now, my goal is obviously eventually to become a full-time cybersecurity engineer. Very, very, very technical. So that's why have learning the tools, my company slowly adding new tools as we go, it actually helped me. So that's the reason why I stayed in my position as long as I have. Even though like I could have went elsewhere to get more pay. I wanted to go the slow route, so I didn't go ahead of myself because at times I went ahead of myself and I just didn't feel ready. So I would say go at your own pace. Don't follow what anyone tells you. If you like the company, even though no company is loyal, but stay with them if you feel that you have a good rapport.
All right, thank you, Kenny. So to wrap up, the tools that you mentioned, you are using Nexus, uh, and I think what Ad Detective was the other one.
Yep. So TrustWave, App Detective.
Trustwave.
Um,
Okay, I didn't
yep.
get that one.
Yep. Tenable, Nessus, and Fortify, Web Inspect.
Okay. So if you can put it also in the chat for us, that way everybody can also follow that, please. All right, we appreciate your time, Kenny. We appreciate your time. It's always a pleasure. So
Yep.
if we'll take at least one or two questions for Kenny, and then we are going to cut him loose for him to be able to take care of business.
Yeah, I'll put that
Any
in the
questions for Kenny before he leaves?
Doug.
Yes, go ahead, Geoffrey.
Okay, Kenny, thank you so much for coming. We really enjoyed the experiences that you are sharing with us. My question is, listening to the things you do, I'm trying to guess the domain in which you are working. Does it have something to do with the cybersecurity maturity model certification that DoD has set up to baseline companies?
No, I'm not at that. No, I'm not I
Okay.
think you're talking about more so ISSO type work.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not a ISSO.
Any more questions? One more question. If there is none, then we will move on.
Hi, I have a question, please. Thank you for the great talk this evening. My question is about you starting up your career as a newbie. Were there tools you already learned during the training that you were able to transition into instantly on the job, or you had to learn everything from scratch?
I'm sorry, could you state that one more time?
Okay, so my question is, I know you took training with Eretmis, and I'm asking, like, did you learn to use some tools during your training that you were able to use on the job when you started, or you had to learn new things altogether?
Both. So when you go into the hands-on training, well, I don't know how Dr. Du might have it set up now, but you have different sections of different tools to go over. So just you have a rundown and overview of each type of tool in the hands-on course. So I just had an overview of each type of tool, but I wasn't an expert at one specific. So when I got onto the job, that's when I specialized more so because I'm doing it on a daily basis. So you'll start, you'll start from scratch as far as your progress, and then you'll get more advanced as you go. And they'll be patient with you. It takes time. Once you get it down, then it's gonna be muscle memory from then on.
All right. Thank you, Kenny.
All right, thank you, Kenny. So next we are going to move to George. So if George, you can introduce yourself and let us know what you do as a security professional, and then you can walk us through the tools that you use.
Hello, thank you, Dr. Edu. So I do PCI remediation for the current company I'm working with, and I use basically Excel and the Microsoft 365 tools basically for policy generation for PCI, Excel for asset inventory, and doing some PowerPoint slides for my plan of action milestones on the current remediation that I've reached. So basically, that's what I use the tools I use so far.
Okay, George, and for like ticketing, do you use any ticketing tools to assign tasks to different members in your
ServiceNow. Yes.
Now ServiceNow is doubling up as a GRC tool. I mean, everybody's trying to, put their hands in everybody else's business because it's business. Okay, so George, as a PCI professional, if you can elaborate, I think you just gave us like a summary. Elaborate a little bit more on your use of Excel, the use case, what do you really use it for, and then what are the level of skill that you need in terms of 1 to 10. Where should you be in Excel to be able to do what you are doing?
Thank you. So for the Excel, mostly the inventory that we get from other subject matter experts like the network engineers, the infrastructure engineers, regarding all the tools that they use in the PCI environment. They export those tools to us, but if we have to do analysis on the Microsoft Excel sheet to change the raw data into a refined data, so we can do what kind of tools, what kind of assets are PCI and which ones are not in the PCI scope. And so we have to use, I would say you still have to know Excel anyway. You can, as soon as they send you the Excel, what are you going to do? How are you going to go into, like, say, the tab as data, and then freeze one pane and move it left and right, and say, make screenshots of it so that you can be able to give reports on your the assets that has been on the screenshot. So if you don't know how to use the Excel, it will be difficult for you to say you want to use this tab to get this kind of information. So I believe you need to know some form of Excel to be able to know how to be able to transform your raw data into an actual data, to be able to interpret it when you do your meetings and say, this is the kind of tools we got from this data. We don't need this one. We don't need this one in scope. This one is out of scope. And so for Excel, that's what I use for that kind of information. Then for Word, most of the time, but Word, we do have another AI generative tool with Word to be able to help us generate policies. So that helps us to say if they don't have an original policy and we have to draft a new policy, we do have an AI generation tool that's proprietary to the organization. So yeah, it works with Word. And so that's another tool we use. And then also, like I said, we use our SharePoint for data collection of evidence in the organization. And then we have again, we use Excel for our plan of action milestones. So since it's a big project, we use the same Excel for our plan of action milestones to see where the remediation is. So you still have to know Microsoft 365, Word, Excel, SharePoint, PowerPoint, because we use the PowerPoint for our presentations when we get to on these meetings to see what kind of level we've got in our remediation. Say how many percentage do we have on the policies, say 60% or 40%, how many policies have we generated so far? And so those are the kinds of things so far that we've used. And since right now, most of the requests on collection of evidence is used to send tickets to ServiceNow. And then that also during the meetings, they also get report on where have we reached on the percentage of tickets that have been remediated. So that's what we do so far.
Okay. Thank you, George. And for these tools, how did you prep yourself, moving into your role? Did you know how to use these already, or how did you get to know these tools before you got on the job, or you were trained on the job?
The class from PCI's influence, I saw that you had Excel with some of the Newsman company evidences you gave us. So that gave us an idea that, okay, we have to learn some form of Excel. So I had to do some training on my own. And then the one I got before the PCI, my boss was also a very good PCI expert. So she also was very kind enough to help me say, go here, go to this tab, data, freeze this pane, scroll this side, cut it off. And so the company might help you. You also have to do some work on your own to be able to follow where, because if she says go to this tab and you don't know where review data and all those, what you'll be found wanting. So it was, I think it was a 50-50 for me. And so that's how I was able to catch up. But you always have to do practice on your own, because with this current job, I didn't even know SharePoint. But you have to do something on your own, and then you also ask some questions. You learn on your own. So I think it's 50-50. You will not be able to know everything. But what you need to know for the job, I think you have to do some homework.
Thank you, George. And then also, question that I asked Kenny. So, being in security now for a while, what was your background coming into security, and how has it been? Has it really been? Has it met your expectation? If you can give us a little background into that also as well, and then we will open the floor for some questions, and we'll move on to our next panelist.
Yeah, so I was talking to my cousin. He also did your class, and I was telling him about the flexibility. He's an X-ray technician, so he wants to also get out. So now he has done the GLC. He's planning, since I motivated him and saw what I do in PCI, and I have my flexibility, he's also trying to. So that gives you an example of how influential this has changed, because he also has to drive around and do a lot of x-rays. It's exhausting, but coming to find out that you work from home, have that kind of flexibility, that's the motivation. So doing something like, and I told him, I invested a lot in the PCI. I mean, Dr. Edu was taking 200, 500 PayPal accounts. I was screaming, but the benefits is right here. So you pay for the money, you pay for time, and you get the benefits. So it wasn't easy. So, I mean, that's what I can tell about it. That's the truth of the matter. It's not sugar coated. You have to put in time and money. And this is the benefit I got from it. So.
And what did you do before?
I was a nurse. I was a nurse too. So I mean, it was also exhausting for me. So I didn't want. I got tired of being in the hospital up and down, up and down, and so I was desperate. So I had to. I said I'm going to put my time and money in this, and this has reduced my stress level a lot.
All right, and your advice to folks who are trying to get into security and those who are in already, before we jump into the questions.
I mean, you have to do the same thing. You have to put in time and you have to put in money. If you want it, you have to give it your all. Because, I mean, the stress with what you're doing before and now is life changing. I mean, I can never stress how happy I am doing this. It has really reduced my stress a lot, to the extent that I've not even quit nursing. I just do it on the side. So when I meet other people, I tell them that, hey, you can do this and do this as a side hustle. Don't make it as a priority. So that's how I look at it now. So you have the options. So that's one of the best take I give to people. Have options in life when you do something like this.
All right. Thank you, George. Now, any questions? I think 2 questions for George, and then we'll move on. I think Shungo has one in here. Did you learn any vulnerability management tools? That is what Shungo was asking.
I've not learned.
And are you using any?
No, we like in PCI, the advantage is you need to know some form, but we don't do the vulnerability management, because one of the requirements is maintain a vulnerability management program. Okay, so according to the requirements, I need to know what kind of tool. If I don't know Nessus, and if I don't know the kind of scans and the screenshots from that, how would I know if it's so? I'm not saying you have to know everything, but at least you know that you have Nessus, you have QRadar, you have Qualys and all that, and they all have some kind of scope and reports. But I didn't necessarily have to practice, because according to PCI, all I need to do is get that from the network engineers, the cloud guys and all that, and then I store it in evidence. So that's what I got to do, yes.
Okay, and there's a second question in here from Samuel. He says, are you doing any SOC stuff? Like, are you doing any SOC 2, SOC 1 stuff? If that is what you asked, Samuel, or the other, like which type of SOC are you talking about? There are 2 types of SOCs in security.
I don't know which one is like, it's a good question. I don't know which one he's talking about. Is it the SOC for the SIM tools or the SOC for compliance? I don't know which one he's talking about, but I don't do any of them. Yes. Yeah, I don't do any of them, because we are all focused on PCI for the company right now, remediation. So,
okay. All right. Thank you, George. So I think we have our 2 questions for George already. So still within the PCI space, we are going to jump to Frank. Frank is also a PCI manager for his company. So if you're on here, Frank, you can introduce yourself, let us know what you are doing, your job title, and then you can run us through the tools that you are using on a daily basis.
Okay. Thanks, Dr. Edu. I hope everyone can hear me. My voice is a little off, but
Yes.
so my name is Frank Osei. I'm the program manager for PCI compliance with an oil and gas company. And I have a couple of tools that I use. Some of them are basic tools that we all use on our jobs. I mean, the Microsoft 365 tools, like Outlook, Word, Excel, Teams, and with PowerPoint and the likes. So those are the basic ones that I use. And I will say there are some tools that I use quarterly for ASV scans. When we say ASV scans, I know we have approved scanning vendor that PCI have certified to conduct those. But what most people don't know, or before I got in the field, I thought the company would just do the scans on your behalf but I didn't know it was more involved in, like, you have to do some type of work on your end too before you send the data to them to do the scan, I mean, conduct the scans for you. So we use Qualys PCI, that's the ASV scanning vendor. So I get the IPs, both as the external IPs or the public IPs from the NetOps teams, and I do some formatting on my end with Excel before I send it up, or before I put it in the ASV portal for them to do the scanning. And sometimes the results comes back and you have to explain false positives and stuff like that. I mean, that's part of my job on quarterly basis. And on daily basis, I use Zenput. I'm sure some of you are familiar with it. So Zenput basically is operations management software for the retail and restaurant industries. So we use Zenput to communicate and also enforce brand standards, like and also food safety protocols and operational priorities across all our locations. So I do manage about close to 1,400 sites, retail sites. We have restaurants, we do have gas stations and convenience stores as well. So of course, you can't have eyes in all the stores. So we leverage the help of regional managers and territorial managers, and also the general managers of the stores. So we use Zenput. That's where they kind of give us it gives us like real-time visibility into the tasks that they are conducting, and also help us as leaders to hold the stores accountable. And there's also another tool that we use is Smartsheet for inventory, and also for taking surveys for the stores in case we need to roll out something or we need to supply the stores with something. We use Smartsheet for that. It has the same outlook like Excel. Just recently, I use Visio to create incident response chat flow for the stores. So that's another tool that came in handy too. And so when it comes to reporting, when it comes to PCI reporting and stuff, we do have the card brands portals that we use for reporting and documentation purposes. Some of them are Secure Trust. I believe it's now Viking Cloud, and the other one is CardPoint. And for ticketing, we use Sharewell, but my company is going through tech modernization now. So quarterly, we do have like changes coming through. I believe some time ago, we used to have Okta and Dio for MFA and all that, but they've switched all that to Microsoft Entra or Entra ID, as some of you might know. And we use SharePoint as well for inventory management And what else? I'm trying to think. Yeah, when it comes to collaboration, of course, we use Teams and Outlook. So I think that's it for now. I don't do much with tools. When it comes to vulnerability and all that, I don't do much with those.
Okay. Thank you, Frank. So you just went through a whole catalog of tools. Now for these tools that you are using at your job, how did you know they were using all these tools going into the job? And if yes, how did you prepare yourself to be able to, work and function in this space with all the tools that you've listed?
All right. So going into the job, I didn't know for most of these tools, I didn't know that we're going to use that. But then again, I do know that Microsoft Outlook and Teams, most companies use that for collaboration. And I think others use Slack, and there's a whole bunch of them. So I did some self-study when it comes to the Microsoft stuff. And also with Excel, I think during your class, the PCI class, that's when I realized I need to, I wasn't I wasn't even intermediate. I would say I was a beginner when it comes to, but now, I realize it has to it's gonna come in handy if I have to, venture into the PCI field. When I saw when I was exposed to it during the PCI class, because I saw you had the a couple of tools. I mean, like a couple of PCI stuff in the Excel spreadsheet. So I figured I have to, study Excel somehow, and it's become handy on the job too. So going into it, yeah, I did some self-study when it comes to like the basic stuff, basic tools like the Word, Excel, and all that. But the other tools, when it comes to like the PCI, Qualys PCI, I got trained on the job by my boss.
Okay. Fair enough, Frank. So, and also, your last two questions. So moving into cybersecurity,
Yeah,
like, how has it been, right? As a career move, how has it been for you?
it's been great. I've done a couple of jobs in the past, from warehouse and all that. But this ultimately the one that has given me the flexibility that I needed for my family and myself. Right now, luckily for me, my role used to be hybrid, but just recently they switched it to fully remote, and it's been great so far. The pay is good, the money side of it, yeah, the money is good, and also the flexibility right there. You're able to do whatever you want. You don't have to keep rushing to go clock in and all that. I wake up, I choose when I want to start working and when I want to end. So that flexibility right there is a major thing for me.
Okay, thank you, Frank. And one last thing. So if you can kindly do us a favor and put all these tools in the chat,
Okay.
that way people can just, copy and, follow up. And so we are doing this as a way to expose you to the tools that are being used in the industry. And you're hearing this from different roles and different people working in these roles, right? So at least if you were clueless as to, or you just knew one or two, now you know, and some of the other tools that you might take for granted, like Excel, everything Microsoft, you think, I mean, Word, is that even a tool? Word and Excel and PowerPoint and the rest, they can make or break you, right? So for a tool like maybe Nexus and the rest, if you don't know how to use it, they can show you around, but even still, you have to know something coming into it. But if you don't know how to use Word, I think they are going to smack you on the head, right? Or Excel, like George was saying, okay, go to this tab, go to file, and you're asking where is file, right? Like you don't want to do that. So what we are doing is not, you don't, from what everybody have said, you don't have to be an expert in all tools going into it, which is impossible. right? So at least know some. When you get there, if you are, 50% or even 30% on it, they can, and as you practice, they can bring you up to speed. And as you practice, you get better and better. All right. So Frank, last question. Your inputs in terms of your advice to anybody who wants to branch into the security space. What would be your advice?
Okay. Yeah, I would say to invest, if you want to enjoy something, you have to invest in it to be able to reap what you sow. So, um, invest time, money, and also network with folks you meet on in the industry. That will also come handy. Some people can pull you into their jobs and stuff. So networking is also big. And also yeah, when it comes to applying for jobs, you have to treat it as a daily job too. Like, don't just slack off and apply one here and there. Like keep it as a daily job. I
Right.
think that's it. Yeah.
All right, Frank. Any questions for Frank before we move forward? I think there are some in the chat. So one general question: do you study GRC before specializing in? Oh, I think that is for Frank. Did you study GRC before specializing in PCI?
No, I did not. I actually did I went through the entry level course with Dr. Edu, and of course I did the internship after that before branching into the specialist PCI course. And then after the specialist I did the expert PCI course. And it's really helping me on the job. Every now and then I have to refer back to my notes from the class, and I'm able to log back in to check on a few stuff. And Dr. Edu has been so generous enough. Like after all these years, I've been with Eretmis since um it's been 4 years now, I believe. I think 2020, yeah. And I'm still able to access my account to, even on the job, to refer to notes on there to do my job. So no GRC experience whatsoever, but just the PCI course that I got from Eretmis Inc. That's it.
So to maybe Frank is referring specifically to the typical what people mostly refer to as GRC, but everything that Frank did, and even PCI, they all fall under GRC.
Oh
So,
yeah, I know. Yeah, I know you offer the GRC course itself now, and the payment card.
yeah, GRC. Okay,
Yeah,
so
so I think
I
you
get
offer it as a different courses, right? That's why I'm
yes.
okay.
Okay, so Frank went through entry level, the internship, and then PCI specialist and expert. Okay, so hopefully that answers the question. Now for the second one, please, we all should learn. Okay, I think this is a comment. We all should learn Excel and not take it for granted. Yes, that is something that was something put in there. Did you get Security Plus before you got this job, or did your job require Security Plus? I think I forgot to ask Kenny and George that.
Oh, okay.
I know their jobs didn't require you to
Okay,
have.
my job didn't require that, but I had that before, getting this job. But I was required to get an ISC certification in a PCI field after securing the job, which I did within a month or two, I believe. And it was under pressure, but based on the training I received, I was able to, pull it off, because it's 2 exams that you have to take. You have to pass the first one before moving on to the second one. And they needed me at a crucial moment. And I think I've shared that story already in the previous cyber chat.
All right, Frank.
So now I have ISA and PCIP and Security Plus, and I'm working on CISA now.
Okay, thank you. And Kenny, thank you very much. Kenny has to run, so we appreciate your time. Thank you very much. We will talk offline. All right, so I think those are the questions for Frank. We will open the floor when everybody has gone through, and then you can ask your questions more. Now, I think if I saw this right, Teresa, if you are ready, we are going to push you through. So Teresa, please go ahead if you are ready.
Okay. Just like Dr. Edu said, my name is Teresa, and I was part of the June cohort for last year. And I've been in my current role. I'm now going to 1 year. And currently, I'm working as a vulnerability risk program manager for my company. And when it comes to the tools portion of it, we use for vulnerability risk management, our company have implemented Vulcan Cyber. So what this tool does is that it's integrated with all our scanning tools. And so what it does is that it kind of aggregates all the data and puts them in the Vulcan Cyber tool. And based on the criteria that is defined, which I have defined those criteria in Vulcan Cyber, it auto creates tickets into Jira. And that is where I go to pick up those tickets and engage the different teams to remediate those findings. And so that is really the work, the flow for what I do as a risk manager. And what else again? So those are the main tools that I use. But when it comes to other stuff, I have to do some reporting to the job, the work I do with the remediation for the different teams and all the different criteria that I set up. Some of these tools that scan our endpoints and network and servers, I think we have Orca, we have CrowdStrike, and then there's one called NextParker. So there are different teams that manage these applications. And so once the ticket comes out, it's grouped that way. And I collaborate with those teams to remediate those findings on a daily basis. And for the reporting piece of it, I use Excel just to create some metrics for reporting to show the work that I do. And then I also use PowerPoint for creating presentation slides to report to leadership on the work that I'm doing. I guess.
If you can go back one, I think you run really fast through some of the tools.
Okay. So
if you can just walk us slowly through the tools for Excel and PowerPoint, yes, we got that, but I think some folks would have missed the one in the middle.
Okay.
2 or 3 tools that you mentioned in the middle.
Yeah, so I think I heard most people talking about using Excel when the scanning occurs, everything is dumped into Excel. For my company, they have implemented this tool called Vulcan Cyber. So it's kind of aggregates all the scanning data from their scanning tools into one place. And what this does is that it helps with reporting. It gives them the security posture of the entire company, their endpoints and everything. And for me, for managing the risk in there, this tool is integrated with Jira for ticketing. And so what it does is that what the tool is there, I have created some criteria like critical findings, high findings, servers that are end of life. I've defined these in Vulkan. And so this system auto curates the ticket into Jira. And then once it gets there, my job is to collaborate with the different teams who own these assets to remediate those findings. So the two tools that I said earlier is Vulkan Cyber and then Jira for the ticketing. Okay. And then I also mentioned about the scanning tools that are linked to the Vulkan Cyber. Some of the tools are called NextSparker, SonarQube, Orca, and CrowdStrike. These, I don't do anything with them. The main tool that I use is the Vulkan Cyber and then the Jira. The other tools are managed by application teams and security operation teams to make sure that the scanning is occurring so that I get the report that I need.
Okay. So thank you for taking time to break it down again. Now for these tools, what was your experience with these tools before you got onto the job? Did you have experience using any of these, especially Excel, PowerPoint, and then for Vulkan, Cyber, and others? What was your experience before getting on the job? And did you know they were using these tools before you got there?
For the Vulkan Cyber, no. when I got there, they were now doing proof of concept to implement the tool. So I kind of learned the tool as they were going through the requirement stage till when the tool was implemented. And I was teamed up with one application engineer. So she helped to set up the settings and build the tool with the vendor. But as to how to use, nobody held my hands. I had to watch videos, the training sessions they had to learn the Vulcan Cyber. With the Jira, I worked before as a QA analyst, and so I do have an extensive training in Jira. And so nobody told me that they use Jira. I just got there. Well, Vulcan has to be integrated with Jira, and my manager was really impressed how, I knew the tool, and he didn't even say anything about it because he's like, well, you know the tool, I don't have to even ask for any training for you. And then for Excel and PowerPoint, those are tools that I've used over the years for my different roles before getting into cybersecurity. So I knew those tools before getting into my current role.
Okay. Thank you, Teresa. And last two questions. So for your experience in security now, being in the security space, working as a vulnerability risk manager, how has it been in terms of career move? Has it paid off, or has it met your expectation as a career move?
Of course it has, because when I was looking for the role, for me, I just told myself I'm looking for a remote role. And so all my job search was just to look for something that is remote. And I really didn't search much, but I think that was the second job and I got it, and it's fully remote. So that flexibility that comes with you being in the house, being able to see your kids leave the house, come back, you are here. And that is very, very good. So that's what I can say regarding, it's really fulfilling. And the time that it gives me to even focus on other stuff, even though I'm working remote, once I get my job done, I can do other stuff for personally and for family, and also get back to work when needed.
All right. And what will be your advice for anyone looking to do this career move?
Well, my advice would be that just like my earlier colleagues have already mentioned, just invest. Sometimes you look at the money and you have so many uses for that money, but invest your money into whatever that you want to be, and it will pay off at the end. And when you invest the money, invest your time. And I'm saying that because when we during the internship, right, I was asking myself and asking my teammates, did these people not pay the same amount we all paid? They did not invest their time. They paid the money, but they didn't follow through with being there for the class and doing the work. So invest your money, follow up with your time, and also continuously learn, because it's just a field that is constantly, more things are being added. And so learn continually and commit yourself to continuous learning. And I think that will take you to a higher place in this field. Yeah.
All right. And I think there's one question in here for you. So it says, how difficult would it get to contact these system owners to turn in their systems to address these vulnerabilities? Do you sometimes do it remotely, or do they have to turn it out, or they have to turn it in physically? I mean, so you are working remotely, so obviously all these is going to be remote, but you can, take a shot at this one.
Sure. So really, these are auto setup, right? So these scanning tools, I do not call anybody. Those are auto integrated with Vulcan. So everything is happening by itself. So I don't have to call any application engineer to turn their scanning tools on. It's all set up automatically, and everything is just generating. And my job is just to create the requirements for the things I need to see, and have Vulcan create a ticket, or sometimes I have to manually go into Vulcan and just create a ticket for the stuff that I want to work with the teams on.
All right. Any questions from the audience for Teresa before we move on? Appreciate your time, Teresa. And you can hang around for a little bit if some questions are directed to you, and we are going to take your. All right, everyone. So some quick housekeeping before we move on. So like we said earlier, for folks who are looking to jump into cybersecurity, most of the people talking through this, they went through one or two or three of these courses. So our cybersecurity entry-level course is where we are going to make you a cybersecurity professional from any background, right? You don't need IT background, you don't need cybersecurity background, any prior IT or cybersecurity background, you don't need to know coding. We are going to take you from where you are to where you can start working effectively. Like everybody on here who is talking about these tools and really, going in a bit technical into what they do. So you are hearing them and you might sound like, I can never get there. It is very doable. They can tell you and attest to that. And most of them, they went through some of these courses. So if you are looking to jump from any career now into cybersecurity space, you're a nurse like George, or you used to work in, retail or any other health side like Kenny, you can, take this course, and this is going to help you move from where you are to where you can become a cybersecurity professional and work effectively. And then also for PCI, George and Frank can also attest to this. They went through this course as specialists and expert, and then eventually now they are having these PCI roles, working remotely, and they are loving their life. So if you are looking to jump into like a specialized area in the security space, you can look into this also as well. And for what Teresa was talking about, Teresa was part of this cohort, the cybersecurity or GRC internship that we do. And she can speak to this. This will really bridge the gap between knowledge that you've gained elsewhere in security and what is actually being done on the job, right? You are going to go through and work on 10 major projects. And this this program is going to push you, right? Push you to the limit. You are going to be exposed to way more than you need for the job. And we can assure you, if you are done with this, you'll be able to function effectively in any cybersecurity role. So if you've done RMF, you've done training here and there, some GRC training, and you are still not sure if you'll be able to actually work, you have to be honest to yourself. Some people will come to you and they're like, yeah, I've done this, I think I'm ready. I just need help with interviews. And you ask them just, what projects have you worked on? Zero. How do you do this? They have no clue. Like, so how are you going to do any interview and pass, right? So this program is not only going to help you scale your interview, but then also, most importantly, you are doing the interview to eventually get the chance to work. On the job, nobody's going to teach you how to do your work. They are going to orient you, maybe help you with some tools here and there, but overall, they expect you to know how to do the work. George, please go ahead. I think George has his hand raised.
I just want to let everybody know that I can also assure you that with this training, I have another worker who's also from PCI. He's our classmate. I don't know if it's on here, but they hired the two of us, and we are working on the same projects. So that tells you how valuable it is. When we started, they hired us as security analysts. And when we went on and we hit the ground running, the kind of questions we're asking, the ISA was the former QSA who was hired asked us that, hey, George and Peter, were you guys hired as PCI or security analysts? We said, security analyst. But we do have PCI experience, because the kind of questions we're asking, we're saying they had no data flow diagram, no network diagram. How are we going to have a scope? Just from the training, that helped us have put on edge. So I'm telling you that this is value for money, that it gives you an edge to set your pace when you are in the company. And so two of us from the same class working in the same company is really valuable. It's great.
Thank you, George. And with that, we are going to move to our next member on the panel. and that is going to be Kwame. So Kwame is doing cybersecurity analyst, cybersecurity manager, and PCI at the same time. So Kwame, if you are ready, you can have the floor. Introduce yourself and then your role, and you can walk us through the tools that you use.
Hi, my name is Kwame, as usual, former student of Eretmis, being trained by Professor Du. So that is where I get my knowledge, everything about cybersecurity from. And now I am the cybersecurity manager for my company and also PCI subject matter expert. And in that company, everything is me. When it comes to PCI, when it comes to cybersecurity, any question, they need a security guy, and there's nobody than the son of Dr. Du here to answer them. So, and then I'm putting the tools that I use on the chat, so you can take a look at it. So in my company, we use a lot of tools. We use Okta, Slack, Recorder Future, Fishfort, Jira, Proofpoint, Article, Sophos, Veronis, and then Google Doc. So when I'm going to take them one by one based on the tool, so that at least we get to understand what each of the tools is used for. So when it comes to Okta, we use Okta for user identification. That is, if you have to log in from anywhere in any of the company applications or devices, you have to be identified through Okta to confirm, to authenticate that you are the right person who has been given the access. So you have to also provide a multi-factor authentication to confirm as to the username and the password you provided is right. And then you move on. And then we use Slack also as an internal communication amongst peers. That is where we chat, ask questions, engage. If you have any questions, a follow-up ticket or any issue or concern that you need somebody to either get a job that you're waiting on to be done, then you have to reach out through Slack, and then the person have to also respond. And then where did it go? Okay, and then I use Recorded Future. My company is one of the biggest media company in America, and we have a lot of journalists all over the world. So we use Recorded Feature to monitor our social media platform based on what communication is going on, what somebody said about our publication, if people are going after our journalists, and if then there's the need to address that issue, we use that to monitor Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, all that. And then all these alerts also comes to me that I have to pay attention to and see what they are talking about. Is this something that is offensive? If it becomes more offensive, and then we have to take action. So that is what Recorded Feature is used for. When it comes to Fishfort, it's also in the same term, but there are people, one example is that there are a couple of people who use other companies' information on social media platforms to make money. Examples like somebody having done all the research and brought up all the research in the news or out, and there will be a media platform who has done nothing, but will just take your material and then have people sign up to it, and then he'll be making the money without doing the job. So we use the Fishfort to also request, if we find out that any entity is doing that, we use that to request a takedown. That is, we have to go through a process with the legal team of the company to request that, hey, you are using our material of which you are not paying a penny to us, so it is not allowed. Either we go to court or we are requesting immediate takedown. And all these requests, all the takedown requests have to come through me, that I have to make sure I put in the takedown request, and then either they accept or they prove that, oh, okay, we on this day we sign a contract with you guys, and we are all we have the right to share or use your material, then we move on. So that's what we use Fish for. And then Jira is for our ticketing. Like any activity, any vulnerabilities or any concern, we put in a ticket from the help desk. They come to me, we put in the ticket, and then we have another person that assign this ticket to the appropriate department to get it resolved. And as a cybersecurity expert, I had to still follow suit. If I give it based on the severity of it, I have to follow up to find out, okay, hey, this ticket was created this day. Why? What is going on? Is there any action taken, any comment and all that? Sometimes some people will just resolve the issue without putting a comment. So you open the ticket, it says it's closed, but then there's no evidence why, or there's no comment saying that this was the issue and it got resolved and all that, but sometimes they don't do comment. So it's my power to reach out to whoever did the ticket to reopen it and say, hey, can you please kindly put in a comment? So we use Jira for that. And then we also use Proofpoint. And then Proofpoint, we use it for different activities. Dr. is smiling because, you know, it's a lot. Because when it comes to Proofpoint, we use Proofpoint in managing our emails. Yes, we use in managing our emails in terms of some people sending email with Social Security, like in terms of PCI compliance, you know, somebody sending Social Security numbers or so credit card information on the web, which is they don't know. We have this set up that will quarantine the message, and then it will also alert the person who sent either in or out. Will send, if it's coming to Dr. Edu, will quarantine the email and send a message to Dr. Edu saying that, hey, Doc, you're supposed to be receiving this email from this place, but it's being quarantined. So if you know who is sending it, then you have to request for me to release it. So you also have to send me a message that, hey, I'm expecting this email, but it says it's being quarantined. Then I have to go over and review, open your email, read the content, and understand that what conversation that you guys were having, what triggered the quarantine of that message. So if I read it and it doesn't look like it's a credit card information or social security number, but sometimes because the machine is a machine, sometimes if most words contain like 16 digits, sometimes you just capture thinking it's a credit card information. So I have to take time, go over. And the funny thing is that some of these journalists like will be in the sports stadium live, they're waiting for their ticket to get inside, but then their ticket has been quarantined, thinking it's a credit card information. So no matter what the time is, I should be available. It could be like 12 in the night. A plane ticket, I have to be alert 24/7 to release it to them. So that's something that I do. When it comes to Sophos is also used for monitoring our devices. It has a vulnerability tool, or it does the scan on all our machines which lack patching and all that. So it will alert us. Then I have to also go and review to make sure when the patches came out, like when patches come out, is it being applied to these devices, servers, and endpoints. So if it's not, then I put in a ticket saying that maybe machine for Dr. Edu needs patching with maybe Windows that, and it's not been applied. So I put in a ticket, they push it to the Windows person, and then they have to apply these patches. And then they have to confirm to me that the ticket has been resolved based and what is required has been done. So that's what we use Sophos for. And Veronis is for file assessment, you know, like file management assessment. Before you are able to be given access to any document or any file or folder, we have to make sure you are the right person and you have the right to access those documents. So if you happen to be the housekeeping person for the house and all of a sudden we are opening the finance folder, it will alert me to know like, hey, this person doesn't have access to this folder. but for some reason he's trying to log into it. He has attempted it. I have to reach out to the person or the manager in charge and reach out, oh, you have this user trying to access it, and he doesn't have the right to access it. So he has to give me a reason, or if the other person has been promoted to that level to now have access to that, then. So that is how we use Veronis for. And then Google Doc is also for our normal day-to-day, like Excel and stuff. So, but when it comes to the proof point, I also use, let me go back to the proof point. I also use proof point for like awareness training. I do that like I think 4 times in a year. I have to create a campaign for users of about 5,000. And then sometimes I will say the last time I did it was I would just set up that, hey, it will come through your email, and the content was like, hey, it was nice video the last time we met, and these are copies of the pictures that we took. So click the link. But the sender is somebody from China or something. That is how. So if you click on it and you are not sure who you click, who sent it to you, I get this list of all people who clicked on it, and they have to be assigned for a training for like the awareness doing that in terms of to prevent phishing emails and all that. So we use Proofpoint for that. So those are all the tools that I use, and that is me, a product of Eretmis Academy. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kwame. So that was a whole list. We appreciate your time. So quick, like your last 2 questions. How did you prepare to be able to easily use these tools on the job? And did you know they had all these tools going in?
So far, I did not know they had all these tools going. There was 1 or 2, but back to what I said, I had everything I was just trained by Dr. Du. I had no idea what cybersecurity is. I had no experience. I just knew they said there's something going on, and I came under his feet, and then he took me under his wings and then brought me to where I am. So every knowledge that I have right now is through the blessings of Dr. Du and Eretmis.
All right, Kwame. And for anyone who is looking as a career move, has this paid off? Has it met your expectation as a career move? And what were you doing prior to jumping into this, before you jump into cybersecurity?
Yeah, because the expectation, we had it, we didn't know if it was possible. I was a truck driver by then, but then I heard about it. I didn't know anybody who was in it, so I decided to research and met Dr. Du. But then it's been so amazing, the stress and waking up in the morning with the snow and all that. Now, if they talk about snowstorm, I'll just be in my house with my computer on my laps. And then once I have heat in my home, I'm all set. So it's very, very good. It's not, you can do it. Once you have Dr. Du with you, you can do everything. That is what I'll say. Don't go and be engaging some other people before you bring your issue to him. Start with him and then finish with him, because one-stop shop. That's it.
All right, Kwame. Appreciate your time. Any questions for Kwame before we move on? I can't see any in the chat. So if there is none for Kwame, we are going to move on to our next panelist. I'm going to have Dennis go next, and then we will go. I'm going to save Isaac for the last show. Then I know why I'm saving Isaac for the last. So Dennis will go, and then Bettina. Dennis, kindly go ahead. Please introduce yourself and then your role, and then you can walk us through the tools that you use.
Okay. Good evening, Dr. Du, and good evening, everyone. I am very privileged to be here and share my experience and also the tools that I use in the job. So currently, I work as an information system security officer, popularly known as ISSO. So as an ISS, or before that, I was in the healthcare, and I've been with Eretmis almost 5 years as a CISSP student, and through that, I was able to be part of one of the GRC training, the internship. Yeah, so as an information system security officer, currently I'm using CSAM. Before that, I used Archer. And so CSAM is the GRC tool that we are using. I would like to say that I'm a federal contractor for one of the government agencies. So we use CSAM as our GRC tool. So the CSAM is a customized version. So we have a different name, we call it JCOM, but it's same as CSAM. So I use that tool for my assessment and authorization processes for my assigned systems. So as an ISSO, I work with the system owners and other system team to ensure that the system gets its authority to operate, known as ATO, before or after, to ensure that it's in compliance with the organization requirement and also NIST requirement. And so that's what I use the CSAM for. But the CSAM is used with other teams. Management use that for the governance part and also to ensure our systems are in compliance. So it's integrated with other security tools like the Nessus, Bedflex, and other security tools. And also I use Microsoft for that Office 365 application like Word for reports. I also use PowerPoint for my ATO kickoff meetings. I also use Excel so I get my monthly and weekly vulnerability scan report through Excel. There's a team that generate that for us every month. Sometimes it comes in through an automated email, but if I need to get a new report to validate remediation from any of the system team, I request that from the team in charge of Nessus. So depending on the tools, what you have access to, it differs from organization to organization. Prior to this job, I had access to Nessus. I can always go in and get my report. But where I am now, I have to request for a new report if I need, and I cannot wait for the monthly report. So I get my scan report through Excel, and also I have my audit report from Splunk through Excel that comes in every month from the team that is in charge of that. And I think that's all the two that I'm currently using: Microsoft 365 product and CSAM.
Okay, and thank you, Venice. So CSAM, Microsoft 365, and okay, so
and
Excel,
also,
PowerPoint.
I wanted to say I also use Sharewell for ticketing. So where I am currently, knowing how it's difficult to work with other teams to get your work done, you have to use Sharewell to create ticket to assign to any other team. It can be the engineers or the cybersecurity operation team if you need them to remediate any findings based on your analysis of the scan report. So I use Sharewell for creating ticket.
Okay, thank you. So for these tools, how did you school yourself, or what preparations did you make before going into this role? Did you know they had these tools there already, and how did you prepare to be able to effectively use these tools?
Okay, so I would say like currently, I got to know that they're going to use CSAM based on the interview and the job description. So I knew that I was going to use CSAM, but I'd never used CSAM, but I've used another GRC tool prior to that, which was Archer. So nobody, like currently, like everybody's busy, so nobody taught me that. And there was no currently there's no SOPs, so you always have to be prepared, especially if you don't know the work environment. So as Dr. Edu was saying, don't think you're going to be trained. They will just give you orientation, and so you have to make sure you are prepared. If you're lucky to know the tool that you're going to use, make sure you research and know. If you're lucky and you can get some YouTube videos that have that tool, learn it before you go. Otherwise, you find yourself wanting, especially if you've never worked in the field before. If you're lucky, like the other two jobs I did before, they had SOPs, so it was easy to kind of follow along, collect this stuff, do this, do that. But where I am now, there's no SOPs. Like everything is everywhere. You have to find things yourself. But luckily, I had worked with another GRC too. So if you know one, you can work with every one of them. So that helped me to kind of navigate where to find things, even though it was a different tool, but definitely they all work the same way. And of course, Office 365, I already knew it, but I kind of gain more experience day to day, get to know some of the functionalities that probably I didn't know before. So I also learn on the job. If I'm not I do not know the functionality or what I'm asked for, I learn on the job, do research before I do what I have to do. And also with Shell, I've never used Shell, but I had an orientation, and I also got an SOP. For that, I had an SOP, but I don't use that much unless I need to create ticket or the system team, the technical team are not responding to me, and I'll create a ticket just to track that I did follow up and nobody's responding. Or if I do an audit report and there's anomaly in the report, I go straight ahead and create ticket for the cybersecurity analyst to investigate further. Yeah, so that's that.
Okay. Thank you very much. So also last two questions. As a career move, has being a cybersecurity professional, has it paid off? Has it met your expectation?
Yes, very much. In terms of flexibility, and also is rewarding in terms of financially. It has made me a little bit stable, like compared to where I would have been if I was doing what I was doing before. So I would say yes, it's rewarding, and it's the flexibility aspect. As a mom of three, it makes you more flexible in terms of managing the home. So yes, it's been rewarding.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, what will be your advice to anyone who is looking to break into cybersecurity?
Yes, I would say, yeah, always be ready to learn, no matter your experience. I don't think you have an experience, so that ends it. Things change and processes change. You might have an experience, but all the time there are new processes, and you have to be willing to learn. And also, as Dr. Du said, be prepared and at least get an experience. You cannot have it all, but have an experience, have hands-on on some of the project, so that even when you go, you can, if you have to ask questions, you ask the right question, and you don't, because sometimes based on the questions that you ask, even if you don't know, they will know that, oh, you have no experience. But even if you don't know, you make sure you ask the right questions. So always be ready to learn. Yes, and make sure you are kind of prepared, even for some of the tools before you start applying for the job, or in the process of applying for the job, keep learning.
Thank you, Venice. And if you can put the tools in the chat for us, that will be much appreciated also as well.
Okay.
In 1976,
All right.
I met a young man in Ibadan. He has a client-like heart.
All right. So next on our list, thank you everyone who has come through so far, and hopefully we are all learning something. Next in our list, we'll go to Bettina. So Bettina, I know you've been here since the beginning, but I'm saving, I know why I'm arranging it that way. So Bettina, kindly go ahead.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Okay,
thank you so much for having me here. And so, as you all know, my name is Bettina Kwating. I am a cybersecurity manager. I work at the airport, Newark Airport. And basically, my key responsibilities are I mainly develop and implement cybersecurity strategies and policies. I manage risk assessment and vulnerability management. I oversee incident response and threat hunting. I manage security operations and monitoring, and I ensure compliance with regulations and standards. I also lead security awareness training and education, and I collaborate with our stakeholders and third-party vendors. So mainly my job is we have a lot of tools that we work with, but what I do mainly is I manage all these people that on the team, basically. And you must know about these tools to be able to manage them. You cannot manage people if you don't know what they are doing. So we work with, we have Avanti, Secure Honest, Microsoft Defender, And so mainly Avante is an endpoint and IT asset management solution that offers integration and support for the SIEM platforms. Yeah, and it does not have a dedicated SIEM solution basically, but it rather integrates with the existing SIEM systems to enhance security operations. Some of like the SIEM, like so mainly for like endpoint data integrations, vulnerability management, automation and incident response, threats, intelligence, and integration, compliance, reported, and all that. So for the SIEM, we use Securonix, and it was very new to me. I'd never heard of it before I joined the company. Yeah, so it's quite advanced. So it has the capabilities that focuses on the user and entity behavior analysis and SOAR and threat intelligence as well. So basically it also has for cloud native architecture, mainly is designed as a cloud native SIEM. And this means that it is highly scalable and very flexible and can process vast amounts of data in real time. So for my organization, it being an airport and the number of the kind of how huge the environment is, it deploys it without managing underlying infrastructure. So making it ideal for such a large scale environment, basically. Yeah, so we also use, I've mentioned Microsoft Defender, and we use Excel as well, Teams, PowerPoint, and basically, I think for now, from the top of my head, that these are some of the tools that I think I can mention for now. I'm going to put that in the chat so you could have an idea of what it is.
Okay, thank you, Bettina. And your last two questions. So, did you know they were using these tools going into the job, and how did you prepare yourself to be able to use these tools?
Okay, so some of the tools for Securonix, I didn't know about it because they were like our contractors that use that mainly for our incident response. But in the job description, they talked about Defender, they talked about a few other tools that they used to have it, but now when I entered into the company, they had changed. We're using just Defender, and they had just introduced the Securonix with this new contractor that we had for the SOC team. So I found out about them, and when any new tool comes in and is very new to most of us, they give you a little bit of training on there. And as the one good thing for me being the cybersecurity manager, I find a way to let them train me on some of the things that I don't know. But you cannot say that you must have some idea about some tool before you can let them train you on other stuff, because you cannot say you don't know any tool at all. So, okay, I know this, maybe this is new to me. Can you just give me, is it like this one? So you talk about the ones that you know, and then you let them introduce you into the new things that is on there. Because I mean, even though it was a new tool, it all has some similarities, but then there'll be something quite different from what they're using. So it helps you if you have some sort of idea before you enter into the training or something like that.
Okay, thank you. And then also, lastly, cybersecurity as a career, has it paid off? Has it met your expectation?
Yes, it has. It has. It's really met my expectation. And I remember the very first time I spoke with you, and I didn't start from last year. The first time I spoke to Dr. Joe was just this year. I think it was somewhere February. Ending of year, early February, and we had the conversation. You introduced me to Eretmis. I joined Eretmis. I studied like I've never studied before. I mean, previously I'm a lawyer. I wouldn't say I was. I'm still a lawyer, and I always say, I tell this to my friends and my family that I thought being all the studies that I did when I was in school during the time, like in law school, I studied, but then this year I have truly studied. So aside from the fact that you're going to pay the money for it, like some of my colleagues just mentioned, you need to learn. You need time for yourself. I've had sleepless nights. And when I joined I started with the entry level, and immediately I joined, there was an internship coming up, and I said to myself that I wanted to be part of that internship. So I literally gave myself like a full month from Monday to Saturday studying the notes before I joined the internship. So this year, I really studied. I joined the internship, and during my internship time, I was the group leader. I don't know if Dr. Du but putting me there really helped me, because at a point I noticed that you cannot be a leader and say that you don't know something. So I was always studying. I remember with my group members, we were always having our group meetings from Monday to Friday, every time between 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. or even 2 a.m. And that is how I stretched all of them, and it really helped me. And during that time, I had 2 jobs. I got my first job, and I couldn't do that job because of the state that it was in. And I got this job even during the time that I was doing the internship. And this is how good the internship was for me. So after the internship, I applied for this job also. It's not too far from me. It's just a few hours. And then I got this job. So it's really been helpful. It's really been helpful. I mean, I wasn't lucky to have a full remote. It's a hybrid. So I have to go to the office sometimes, and sometimes I work from home. So yeah.
All right, Bettina. Thank you. Any questions for Bettina? You can put it in the chat, or you can raise your virtual hand and jump in. So we have our last 3 panelists. We are going to be brief with that one, but they will still go in depth into the tools that they are using. So Felix will go next, and then we'll have Isaac will go, and then Michael. Michael is our grandpa, and then Michael will finish everything up, right, for us. So Felix, please go ahead.
Okay, my name is Felix, and I'm part of the June cohort from last year. And I work as a GRC analyst right now. And the tool we use is Logic Gate for GRC. It's a GRC tool. And the ticketing tool, we use Fresh Service for, for ticketing and evidence collection. And we also use Monday.com for project management. So let me dive into the Logic Gate. So in the Logic Gate, they have different models, but we started with just 3 of the models. We transitioned to Logic Gate, I think, last month. And one of the models we are using is for compliance management. And this helps us track compliance tasks and regulatory changes. The other model is the third-party risk management model, which helps us evaluate vendor risk, conducting due diligence and monitoring ongoing performance to mitigate potential threats of vendors. And the other model is the audit management, which is used for the entire audit lifecycle from planning stage to the reporting stage, ensuring that findings and recommendations are tracked well.
All right. Felix, you are muted. Oh, no, I stand to be correct. Okay. So, were you coming in broken, or like?
No, I mean, those are the tools that.
Okay, that you use.
The Logic Gate, and then we use Fresh Service for ticketing and evidence collection. And I also mentioned Monday.com for project management.
Okay. So if you can do us once we are done with you, if you can put your tools in the chat for us, we would much appreciate it. And for these tools, did you know offhand before you got onto the job that they were using these tools, and how did you prepare yourself to be able to use these tools on the job?
I only knew Excel and Microsoft Word before getting a job. So they are teaching us how to use a Logic Gate. on the job right now. So I would say my job requires about 90% of Excel. You don't necessarily have to know a tool before getting a job. So from the internship, we were using Excel, and I've been using, I've kept all the documents that we use in the GRC internship, and that's what I've been referring to. Yeah, so that's how I migrated from your class to this position.
Okay, thank you. And then also, lastly, so I want to make this quick comment. So if you find yourself in a company and they are just transitioning into a new tool, then you just hit the jackpot. They're going to train everybody, right? If they're already using it, don't think anybody is really going to babysit you. You have to know some part of it or know how to move around in it, or somebody to be able to go out of their way, because they are all there to work. They are like do their work for the day. They cannot spend their time teaching you how to use a tool. How are they going to do their work? Know how to use it, or you have some orientation and you've done some digging yourself. It's easy for them to polish you up, right? But if the company is totally switching, then everybody is new to the tool. So, everybody has to be taught. So that will be like a good something for you. I think that is what is happening with Felix with Logic Gate. So Felix, as a career move, cybersecurity as a career move, how has it paid off? Has it met your expectation? And if yes, you can give us maybe some of the reasons why. And then once you're done with that, we'll move into your advice for folks who are, looking to get into the cybersecurity space.
Yeah, I have three simple points. It has endless opportunities. It comes with a good pay, and I like the flexibility aspect of it. I began my role was hybrid, but now I'm working fully remote. So that's all I can say.
Right. And for anybody who is trying to get into the industry, like what will be your advice in terms of prepping themselves, getting ready for a job, and all that?
Yeah, I'll say, invest time and money in this cyber security, profession, and it will pay off at the end. That's all I would say. Just invest your time and money, and it will pay off at the end.
Okay, thank you, Felix. If there are any questions, you can put it in there. But Felix, if you can also put in the tools in the chat for us, that would be much appreciated. Thank you very much. Now we're going to move with Isaac. So Isaac, please go ahead and you can take the floor.
Hello, everyone. I don't know why you made me go last, Dr. Adu. I don't know whether it's by design.
No, yeah, save the best for the last, right? It's not like everybody who came through wasn't the best. They are all the best, but I saved you and Michael for last, and people will know why. So go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Isaac Katumba. I am a security operations center analyst. I'm in the financial industry. Basically, I work for a wealth management company, one of the biggest in the country. My primary focus as a SOC analyst is monitoring, detecting, and responding to security threats. So the emphasis is on using a range of tools to ensure that the security of the organization is upheld. So I'll go through some of the tools that I actually use, strapping a little bit many. So for the SIEM tools, that is the security information and event management tools, we use Microsoft Sentinel and Hunters. So both these SIEM tools almost have the same purpose. So, but there is a certain advantage of you find in one tool over another. So like we sort of run both of them, but we're going to move over to only one of the other. So the main purpose is to for this SIM is they help me in aggregating security data from various sources, that is logs, events, and network traffic. Basically, it's like a data lake. We have different connectors from different sources that feed into this SIM, and it's able to give us the information that we need. And that takes me to my next point. How do I use it? Use it for monitoring alerts. For example, Microsoft Sentinel. I use that one to create KQL queries to investigate incidents, correlating data for threat detection. That is, for example, if there is an unusual location login, if we know that this person is supposed to be logging in from Boston, but we get an alert that shows they are logging in from, let's say, Russia or China. So we get to we use this power of the SIM to help us with that threat detection, and we get the alert, investigate it, and see whether this person actually is legitimately logging in from that location. Maybe they traveled or to visit family, or if it was maybe a script kiddie trying to hit the perimeter, basically trying to try to use their credentials and stuff like that. Sometimes they have the right email address and maybe the right password, but another tool, like the Auth app, kind of like gets them. So that's one thing that we can actually use the SIM tool to see. And the other thing that we use the SIM tool for is looking up app owners. For example, if you get an alert that there is a certain app that is using excessive bandwidth within your environment, you can use the SIM tool to look up the app owner and basically reach out to them directly and ask them, why is there a spike in bandwidth usage of this particular app? And maybe they might tell you that is a scanning tool that we use, or maybe that's an audit tool that we run maybe on a quarterly basis, to sync all the data from the different offices. And so they basically get to tell you the reason why there is a spike, but you've seen that because the SIM tool has alerted on that. So it definitely helps in that regard. The other tool that I use, that is the EDR, XDR, that is endpoint detection and response. We use Sentinel-1. Now, this is different from Microsoft's Sentinel. This is a different company, Sentinel-1. It's an EDR tool, endpoint detection. And on Microsoft's side, we use Defender. So again, we have two tools that we're running parallel to each other. The advantages on one over the other. So the main purpose of the EDR tool, it provides visibility into any endpoint activity. That includes detection in response to advanced threats. How I use this EDR tool, I use it to monitor suspicious activity on any workstations or servers in the enterprise environment that we have. I use it for investigating incidents. And once I do, they help me still to, for example, send an asset into isolation, into network quarantine. If I deem it compromised, I can easily isolate it from the broader network to sort of like curtail on the spread of the attack. And then I won't lift the quarantine up until the point when I've realized and confirmed that the asset is proper, the threat has been mitigated. Then I can use the same EDR to lift the quarantine and basically send back the machine into the environment. Why the EDR tool is important, I believe, is crucial for identifying and responding to threats that might bypass traditional security measures. Because you have an agent seated on the endpoint and is constantly monitoring and scanning this endpoint for any for any suspicious activity. So you basically kind of like catch the threat and stop it in its tracks before it goes any further. The other tool that I use is a threat intelligence kind of like tool. They're called TIPS, threat intelligence platforms. Again, this company, I guess it's so big. That's why we operate under the premise of defense in depth. We don't use one tool for doing one function. We kind of like run parallel tools to do the same thing, as I keep mentioning. So for threat intelligence platforms, we have Anomaly, and the other tool is OpenCTI. So OpenCTI is a pretty powerful tool, and guess what? It's open source. Anomaly is a paid version, but OpenCTI is a very, very powerful tool. It does everything that Anomaly, the paid tool, does, and even better. And I like the way it integrates with other tools within the environment. So the purpose of the threat intelligence platform, it helps in aggregating all the external threat intelligence data to stay informed about emerging threats. As I mentioned, it pulls information, threat intel from the different sources and aggregates it into one easy to understand format. How I use this one? So the threat intelligence platform helps me to cross-reference alerts with threat intelligence to assess the risk, to understand the attacker tactics, the tactics, and help to enrich investigations. So if you have sort of like a URL, a suspicious URL, you can throw it in the threat intel platform, and it will enrich this information and give you feedback whether this URL has been found and reported in the wild by someone else or if not. And it basically gives it a scale, red, that is like really suspicious and malicious, gives you amber, 50-50, proceed with caution, and then green could be clear. The other tool that we use is called Axonius. Axonius is an asset management platform. Basically, it's a system of record. This particular tool is a system of record for all the digital infrastructure to inform us in our duties and the other security teams to help us understand all our assets. Basically, the purpose of this particular tool, Axonius, is asset inventory. You cannot protect what you don't know. So this particular tool helps you to understand your entire environment, your cloud assets, your VMs, and your hardware, and all the software, and all the data connectors, and basically what software is installed on these particular tools, which software is out of date that needs to be patched or updated, and how I use it in the SOC is to help me identify risks, prioritizing remediation. As I mentioned, it gets to inform you about what software is on a device, on an endpoint, whether it's up to date. So it helps you to prioritize any remediation and patching that you may have, and also to secure the digital attack surface. Because as I mentioned before, you can protect what you don't know. Axonius is very important. Any asset management platform is very important because it helps you to basically manage your attack surface and bridge any coverage gaps that you might have in your network, and also basically proper asset management and hygiene. Email security and phishing protection. That's another function in the SOC, and the tool that we use in this is what other contributors have actually mentioned. Proofpoint, and as you've mentioned, I'll just go through Proofpoint pretty quickly because you've heard it from other members. So protects against phishing, malware, business email compromise, and email fraud protection. So we use Proofpoint for reviewing flagged emails, investigating phishing attempts, and to educate users. That is for the through the phishing simulations that other members have mentioned. So the other tools that I use, that most people use actually, tool number one, as Dr. Adu has always told us from class one, Google. Google is your number one tool. Every analyst, every cybersecurity profession uses Google. And of course, Excel. That goes without saying. Very, very important for CSV file export, data sorting and report generation, for your higher ups and your direct reports. The ticketing tool, we use ServiceNow, and that is heavily on the help desk side, but also they have another offering that we use, ServiceNow Instant Response Management Tool, which is ServiceNow. They have it as well. I use Kaseya. Kaseya is an RMM tool. It's a remote management tool and for endpoint management. For example, if, like I mentioned about Sentinel-1, sorry, if you put a device in quarantine, it's cut off from the network. It cannot access the network. But with the use of a tool, if you leverage a tool like Kaseya, you can put the particular endpoint in a certain grouping, which is kind of like a test group that enables you to actually access it and do any sandboxing of any information that is on there and any forensics. It basically gives you the ability to access this endpoint even when it is still in quarantine. I like that. AnyRun is a threat intel platform as well. It's open source, pretty nice, very, very good. For VM management, we use Rapid7, though I'm not heavy on that. That is predominantly used by the vulnerability management team that is separate from the SOC. Confluence, Jira Confluence, as mentioned by other contributors, we use that one as a depository for any playbooks that we have developed in the SOC, and any KB articles, knowledge base articles that other junior analysts can actually access and get to see what playbook to implement in what given the situation at hand. So in conclusion, the tools that I use cover different aspects of the security, monitoring, detection, and response and prevention. Every day is different, being a SOC analyst. These tools combined with the human expertise basically enable me to safeguard the environment that I work in, the organization and its assets from evolving cyber threats. Evolving, I say evolving because the bad guys are always evolving and coming up with new tools and new tricks up their sleeve. So we keep evolving, and that's why I love the cybersecurity realm, because it's not static. It's very, very dynamic. Yep, those are the tools that I use.
Thank you, Isaac. And if you can put the tools in the chat for us, that would be much appreciated. So for these tools, you went through a whole list. Did you know your company where they were using these tools before you got in there, and how did you prepare yourself to be able to, function effectively using all these tools in your current role?
I actually, in my current role, I came to this company. I knew how to use Proofpoint because I had used Proofpoint in a previous company. Proofpoint and ServiceNow, and of course Excel. That's it. For the rest of the tools, we were using totally different tools in my previous companies. We're using CrowdStrike, Splunk, QRadar, totally different from what I'm using right now. But the fact that I had that knowledge from my previous roles or from using those those other tools, they are almost the same. If you have that knowledge, it's very easy for you to segue into another tool. They almost do the same thing, but you can definitely get used to it within a week.
All right. Thank you, Isaac. So as a security professional, has your switch or career move into cybersecurity, has it met your expectation? Has it paid off? If so, you give us some reasons. And then once you're done, we will ask our last question, your advice, or you can tie both of it in together. Your advice to folks who are looking to do the same career move. Has yours paid off? And what will be your advice to those who are looking to get into this space?
It has paid off massively, above and beyond. I definitely don't regret having switched to cybersecurity. It's it financially it has paid off, and it continues to pay off. Because as I mentioned, this is my third. I joined. Let me say, I graduated Eretmis Academy in 2021. This is my third. I'm on my third job, and with every hop, you are definitely progressing and moving up and up and up. No regrets whatsoever. Work-life balance. I get to work remote. I get to work hybrid. I basically choose when I want to go into office. That's why I say it's like a remote hybrid. When I feel like I need to see some faces, I go in. But in work-life balance, I get to spend so much time, enough time with my family, and it's a rewarding career switch. I don't regret it whatsoever.
Any advice to anybody trying to do the same career move?
Absolutely. So my advice to start a career in cybersecurity, one needs to build a strong foundation, and Eretmis Academy is one of those avenues, one of those vehicles that someone can use to build a strong foundation in IT. Because the training that you took us through, honestly, I still look back to it, as other members have actually mentioned. It was such an eye opener, and I still dwell back on that knowledge that I learned from you, from Eretmis Academy. So one needs to build a strong foundation in IT, and they can definitely leverage Eretmis Academy for that. And also, earning key certifications, like CompTIA Security Plus, gaining hands-on experience. That one is very, very important. So they can definitely get that through the internships, and the trainings that you actually, the job preparedness that you offer, and continually developing oneself and their problem-solving skills and analytical skills and the soft skills, because cybersecurity is all about collaboration. There is so much cross-team collaboration that you come across in this particular career.
Thank you, Isaac. There are two questions in here for you before you go. So one is, what tool do you use for query? And someone was asking, I think it's Mamus.
So for querying, since we use Microsoft Sentinel, we use the KQL query language for Microsoft. It's called Kusto query language, KQL.
Okay, so I think it's the same thing that he put in here. Probably he also uses something similar like that. And the last one here.
So for Microsoft Sentinel, the same uses Microsoft's own language, which is KQL, Kusto. But for the EDR tool, which is Sentinel-1, don't to confuse the two. It's a totally different company. It's an EDR solution. The one they have, they use SQL.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification. And then also, Roland is asking if you've had any zero-day encounters, or if you've encountered any zero-day form of attack, and how did you deal with it?
Yes, definitely. Sometimes you find yourself posed in a predicament and you have an attack that has not presented itself anywhere in the wild. You leverage all these tools, even the open source tools like VirusTotal, OpenCTI, Anomaly, and no, there is no mention. There is no mention of that particular tool. So what I might call a 0-day wasn't actually malicious. It wasn't malicious. It was a new software. It was a new tool with a very complicated script, that kept pulling information from the environment, and it came off as a beaconing attack. But fortunately, knock on wood, we have not experienced. I haven't personally come face to face with an actual 0-day.
Thank you, Isaac. It's always a pleasure. If you can kindly put your tools in the chat for us. And we are going to go to Michael. So Michael, our grandpa Michael, is going to take us away. And there is a reason why we went in that order. So Michael, kindly go ahead, introduce yourself and your role, and then you can start walking us through your tools.
Yeah, good evening, good evening, everybody, or hello, everybody, wherever you are. So this is Michael, and I'm currently a GRC analyst. And so for like some of the areas and processes I oversee on a day-to-day basis, right? Policy review. So I oversee from policy creation, policy being reviewed, policy, and so also ensuring that we get all approvals and then making sure that the policies are being published and made aware or available to all employees within the company. I also oversee our vulnerability management program. So I'll go a little bit in depth about try to keep it brief. I also oversee our exception process. Also, I manage our third-party risk management as well as any cybersecurity incidents. So I'm in charge of our risk register as well as our audit. So our company, we are in compliance with HIPAA and SOX as well. So SOX is the SOX, so the Sarbanes-Oxley, and I manage and oversee the controls for SOX as well. And I'm also in charge of employee training awareness as well as our DLP, right? So trying to keep it brief. So let's say talking about tools, I'm glad our prior speakers actually, stressed the importance of those basic tools, right? So Excel, PowerPoint, and Word, right? So even though we say they are basic, those tools are actually, some of the most important tools that you can come across as a cybersecurity professional, right? So and you can see that, the more I speak, you can see that those three basic tools actually heavily rely, like the GRC tools heavily rely on the jobs that we actually perform on those three basic tools, right? Which are Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. So earlier I was talking about policy review, right? So example, so policy review, what documents do we create, develop, update, right? Our policies on, right? We use Word, right? So for that, you have to know your way around Word. So, how to edit documents, how to track, right? So basically ensuring that tracking is on, making sure that the document is, being reviewed by the appropriate, individuals within the company. And then once all these steps have been performed, you work to ensure that you get all the approvals, right? So that's where our GRC tool comes in, right? And currently, I use a GRC tool known as Zen GRC, right? So I'll be a little biased, but I think it's one of the best, tools out there, and definitely Dr. Nidu can attest, right? But Zen GRC actually relies heavily on the job that's performed by Excel and as well as Word, right? So once I'm done with creating, updating, and reviewing the policies, with the policy owner, we actually upload that policy to Zen GRC, and then we get all the approvals, right? And then once the approvals are in, I work to publish that, so we do have like a SharePoint page where employees, can go and look at our cybersecurity policy. So once the policy has been reviewed and approved, I do, publish that policy on the website, so everybody has, visibility into what kind of policies, we are maintaining as a company. And I also did mention about vulnerability management. For example, for vulnerability management, and I'll be going a little back and forth between the various tools. So for vulnerability management, we use Qualys, right? So with Qualys, we run the scans and then we do get a report. And as I said earlier on, right, so Qualys heavily relies on Excel, right? So I'm trying to make that connection to make everybody, on the call understand how Excel, Word, and PowerPoint is vital, right? So like without any basic fundamentals or knowledge of Excel, Word, and PowerPoint, you're not going to survive in this field, right? So Qualys runs a scan and then it's going to, generate a report. And that report is going to be on Excel, right? So generally, once we get our report, I'm going to work with some of the system owners or the server owners, right? So sometimes once we get a report, some patching can are not going to be able to happen, or they're going to be happening out of the SLAs, right? Which is server level agreements, which we don't have time to get into because it's a whole topic on its own. So basically, all what it's saying is that, so let's say for some servers we have to patch within 90 days, but we're not going to be able to patch that server within that 90 days. So in that case, for our policy in terms of vulnerability management, we have to put in an exception, or we have something we call exception or risk acceptance for that server or for that system, right? So same report is going to be generated on Excel, and then based on the report generated on Excel, I'm going to work with the server owner to input those informations, right? So I'm going to start a process for a risk acceptance or risk exceptions, and same thing, just like the policies, any risk, any exception for servers patching or systems patching has to get all approvals, right? So same thing, we do everything through our Zen GRC2, right? When it comes to third-party risk management, same thing. We run our third-party risk management through our GRC2, which is Zen GRC. So example, right? We have a new vendor which is onboarding. So procurement is going to reach out to me and let me know, hey Mike, we have this new vendor that's coming on boarding. So we probably have to do a risk assessment because maybe number one, they're going to have access to our networks, or number two, they're going to have access to our sensitive information data, right? And I work for a healthcare company. So you're like everybody on the call definitely know how being in compliance with HIPAA is, how key it is, right? So procurement reaches out to me, and then what do I do with Gen GRC? So I'm going to send out a questionnaire to whoever is the point of contact or the account manager for that vendor. So like within the company, every vendor, right? Every external vendor has an account manager, right? So like whenever a vendor needs something, they're not going to be reaching out to me as the GRC analyst. They're going to be reaching out to the account manager in our company, and then the account manager is going to reach out to me to let me know, hey, this company needs this or that from you. So whenever the account manager reaches out to me, I'll send out a questionnaire, and then within that questionnaire, we ask simple questions, right? Number one, is the onboarding company going to have access to our data? Are they going to have access to our network, right? Are they going to have access to our facilities? So these are some of the questions we ask. So based on the answer that I'm going to get from the account manager, right, which is somebody within the procurement department, that's going to trigger whether either we're going to do a risk assessment or not, right? So if risk assessment is going to be, then everything is run through Zen GRC. So I'm going to send out a questionnaire, right? The questionnaire to the account manager, and then he's going to reach out to the other companies, GRC team or right compliance team, and then they are going to fill out that questionnaire. And everything is done through Zen GRC, right? So I'm trying to connect all the points. So yes, and third party is a whole lot, but I just want to give a few pointers on how I use our GRC tool to run our third party risk management program. And also when it comes to incidents, right? So whenever there's an incident, every incident, whether low or high, has to be recorded, right? So in the incident GRC. So basically, we have to track all incidents till resolution, right? It's a whole topic on its own as well. I can go into details. We're running out of time, right? Risk register, same thing. So risk register, we run our risk register in our Zen GRC2, right? So basically, every risk in the company is recorded in there, right? So, and it's our GRC tool is also key. You can only imagine how important it is making sure that nobody breaks into your GRC tool, because that's where you keep your risk, right? Your vendors, like everything service ready, you keep it in your GRC tool. Yeah. So for risk register, the beauty about having your risk register in a GRC tool, you can have dashboards, right? You can have dashboard, you can have controls like mapping It makes mapping so easy, right? That's also a topic on its own, right? But it's going to take hours to go through that. And also audit, I earlier mentioned SOX, so SOX, which is the Sarbanes-Oxley. So we are in compliance with SOX, and we run our entire SOX program through GRC, right? So example, so some of our SOX controls basically, right? So we have different SOX controls. We have about 140 SOX controls, and they have different frequencies, right? So some source controls, they kick off every month, some are every 3 months, some are every 6 months, and some are semi-annually and annually, right? So imagine having to manage all this through Excel, right? So like Excel is great, but the difference between an Excel and having a GRC tool is the efficiency, right? So with a GRC tool, number one, is more efficient, and also number two, right? You're actually going to use less time, right? Which gets back to the efficiency. So less time actually to perform some of the GRC functions, right? So when it comes to our SOX audit, so basically GRC tool is going to send me a reminder, right? For whenever.
Go ahead, Michael. You are muted. I have to mute everybody.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about
Sorry, I
that.
was speaking. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we
Okay.
can hear you.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So talking about the audit, how we run our audit program within our GRC tool. So with GRC tool, right, we have about 140 controls, and those 140 controls have different frequencies, right? So some of them kick off every 3 months, some of them are monthly, some of them are semi-annually, and some of them are annually, right? So imagine having to use Excel and then putting on reminders, right, to go back and see, okay, so for like the 100, it becomes unmanageable, like crazy unmanageable, sorry. So the GRC2 actually makes life easier for you because it's going to send you reminders on when, documentation or evidence is due for a control. So with the source control, we do have the control owners, right? We have our audit team, and then we have the GRC team. So let's say this example, right? So the source control for password parameters is going to kick off. So once it kicks off, it's going to go to the control owner. So the control owner is going to read the description, and then they're going to provide the evidence, right? So they provide the evidence, and then once they provide the evidence, they're going to kick it off to our internal auditor. So the internal auditor is going to review the evidence, and if he's okay with the evidence, he's going to kick it off and push it off to the GRC team, right? So imagine having to do all this with an Excel sheet, right? It's going to be emails, right? You might miss an email, but having the tool actually streamlines the process, makes the process easier, right? Make it understandable and also easy to follow. And also very importantly, tracking, right? Because you always want to track, because that way if something comes up, hey, you just go into the tool and we have the evidence that, hey, maybe this did kick off, but you evidence owner, you were supposed to do A, B, and Z, but you didn't, right? So we do have that trackability as well. That's the major difference between having a GRC tool or relying on those three, basic tools, even though we say basic, but they are not actually basic. Like those are the tools that you have to actually build upon, to be able to survive in the industry, right? And also, right, I'm also in charge of training awareness. So earlier, some of the speakers did bring up proof points. So yes, so proof point, I use proof point for phishing as well. So proof point does a lot of things, right? So we use proof point for DLP as well as for phishing. So we have the security education platform. That's another tool within Proofpoint that does the phishing. So we run the phishing on a quarterly basis. And what the others did speak about, I'm not going to go into that, right? And some of the other tools. So I did mention Qualys. We use ServiceNow. So we use ServiceNow for ticketing, right? Example, if
You are coming in broken, Mike. Still a bit faint.
Okay.
Yes, it's okay now.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, and you are going in and out again. If you are still speaking, Michael, you are
Yes.
going.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So yeah, I did talk extensively about GRC and Qualys, right? And we use ServiceNow for ticketing. So with ticketing, right? So just like we do risk assessments on onboarding companies, we do have some companies who have to do a risk assessment on us as well, right? Because we also do provide services. So in that case, whenever a company is, needing to do a risk assessment on us, they're going to reach out to the service account manager, and the service account manager for that vendor is going to submit a ticket through ServiceNow, right? So that ticket is going to, maybe if they want us to fill out a questionnaire, then we're just going to go ahead and fill out a questionnaire. Or sometimes they might send you a link to a portal, a third-party portal that manages their third-party risk management program, and then we go ahead and fill out the questionnaire, right? So I did talk about ZenGRC, about Qualys, about ServiceNow. We use Jira. I did mention proof points. Yes, and we also use Reliance Learning, which is for training awareness. So for training awareness, like every year, I actually have to review our training awareness material, right? So I work in conjunction with our HR department. So once I review and I'm okay with the content, right, I push it to HR, and then we use the platform or a tool called Reliance Learning to actually push the training material to all employees, and then they have to take it. They have like, it's a compliance, right, requirement. So they have a time frame that they have to take it, and everything is done through Reliance. And for basic tools, as everybody said, I use Outlook, Teams, Word, PowerPoint, and Excel, right? And going back to, just to recap, like, so the basic tools, Excel, PowerPoint, and Word, definitely those are your fundamentals, because those ones, nobody are going to teach you on the job, right? You come in, they expect you to know how to use Excel, how to use PowerPoint, and how to use Word, right? So for me, our GRC tool, I was lucky enough when I joined the company, they actually had somebody teach me, right, the tool for about 2 months. So I had about 2 months to teach. And also, one thing that one advice that I'll give when it comes to tooling, I'll give to most people is, so once you join a company, don't be scared, right? If they already have a GRC tool in place, generally the GRC tool comes with hours for training, right? Which is actually, already purchased when you purchase the tool. So you can always reach out, whatever tool your company uses, you can reach out to that tool company, and then you can have some sections where they can actually help you and walk you through how the tool actually works, right? And I'm speaking I'm speaking from experience, right? I had experience with two GRC tools, and for both tools, we did have hours where we actually, the company was able to provide me a resource, right? Who was with me and showed me actually how the tool works. So that's one thing, I would advise people to leverage, because those tools are pretty much expensive. So they generally come with hours where, they will actually provide you somebody from the company who's going to help you and walk you, through those tools. I mean, we are almost out of time, so I couldn't expand on a lot, but I just want to keep it brief, and hopefully I was able to give out some few pointers. So I think, yeah, that'll be it for me.
Thank you, Michael. So last two questions. Switching from your previous professional sector that you were in to cybersecurity, has it paid off? Has it met your expectation? And what
Yeah,
were
I
you
mean,
doing
Dr. Du,
previously
yeah, yeah.
before cybersecurity?
Yeah, I think Dr. Du already knows the answer to this one. So it definitely has. I mean, I just have to look at my paycheck, every 2 weeks, and yes, I mean, absolutely. And also the flexibility. I mean, my wife and I just had, a second born like a couple of weeks ago. And, imagine me being in meetings and, being able to hold my little boy in my lap whilst I'm on a meeting. So the flexibility, being able to work from home, the money, I mean, it's, and, the other speakers have already speak to that, but yeah, absolutely. Like it's a switch that I would advise, if it's something you really want to do, absolutely don't waste time. Just, put yourself into it and get it done.
All right, all right. And lastly, if somebody is looking to do the career move that you did, what would be your advice? Some of the things they have to look out for.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, the panel speakers actually gave, some great advices, but like what I'll add to this is that, just, my advice actually will go to people who have actually, I know, who have completed the course, right? So, just make sure you stay consistent with the process, because I do have, instances where people will reach out to me, and they'll be like aggressively looking for a job for a month. Things don't go well, and then they abandon it, right? And then they'll come back maybe 3 or 4 months back, and then be like, okay, now I'm back. I want to redo it again, but it doesn't work that way, right? Once you make your mind you want to do it, just keep the consistency. Whatever other job you are doing, keep your job, keep doing it, keep applying, right? Don't just get discouraged because maybe for like a stretch of a month or two, things didn't go how you were expecting it to go, right? So just just keep the consistency. Don't stop and pick, because once you stop and pick up, like it's never gonna go like it's never gonna be like the same. So my advice is just just stay consistent. If you want to do it, put your mind to it until you land your first job. Never stop.
All right. Thank you, Michael. And there's a question in here from Shango, and then we wrap it up. So, in what ways do Eretmis Academy graduates utilize cybersecurity tools to protect cloud-based environments in their current roles? So, if any of you want to take a shot at this, how do you protect your assets in the cloud with the tools that you mentioned? Is there any of these tools that you can use to do that? I'm going to leave that to our panelists. If probably Isaac, since he's the one doing SOC, he might want to take this if he's still on here.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question. I'm still here.
The question is, how do you utilize cybersecurity tools to protect cloud-based environments in your current role?
So I'll just mention the main tool that I use, Microsoft Sentinel. It's a fully cloud-based environment. So everything that I've mentioned that I use in Sentinel, I use it in that aspect of helping me execute my duties as a SOC analyst on a day-to-day basis. And there is another tool that I think it was George that mentioned it. It's called Varonis. It's also cloud-based. Most of the Sentinel-1 is cloud-based. So most of the tools you will find are cloud-based. A few are hybrid, and very few companies are still operating on-prem environment 100%.
True. Okay, Isaac, thank you. And thank you to all our panel members. And this is the beauty of what we do at Eretmis. Every single person who came through, they are all Eretmis students who are currently working on the job. So this goes to show you what we are doing in Eretmis. And we are proud of our alumni who are making saving companies a lot of money and making a great impact in the industry. And there was a whole list. We have way more than we can fit on here. So we are going to have another session whereby they are going to go into the projects that they do, right? Not just the tools, but they will go more in depth into the projects. And I think for that, we are going to break it up and spice it up. Maybe bring the folks who couldn't join today to come and do those sessions, and then have some of our panel members from here based on the availability. So we appreciate everybody's time. And for folks who are looking to join the ranks of cybersecurity professionals, our cybersecurity entry-level course is the right course for you. And for almost everybody on here, they started from no IT cybersecurity background, zero, right? And somebody like Bettina started February this year. She's been working and she's a cybersecurity manager, right? So for folks who, are doubters and think this is not going to be for you or it can't work, this can surely work if you put in the time and the effort. So our entry-level course, the course Bettina took, and others like Isaac, who just spoke, Michael, and they all went through entry-level and the internship and the hands-on training and job placement, where we help them find jobs. There'll be days where they'll come back to talk about their job placement, how we worked with them, endless, nights, day, going through different interviews, and some of the no's that you are encountering, we still push through. Like Michael was saying, don't give up in the first 2-3 months. Keep pushing, right? So the entry level really helps you to go through the whole entire process from start to finish. So you become a cybersecurity professional, and we are going to invite you back to speak like Michael, Isaac, and everybody else who was on here, right? And then for folks who are looking to specialize in a niche within the cybersecurity space, we encourage you to join our PCI DSS class. The ones that George and Kwame and Frank and others went through, we encourage you to join that as well. And then for folks looking to break the gap between knowledge and skill, if you know some knowledge, you've gone through some classes, you are looking to jump into real life projects, we encourage you to jump into our cybersecurity GRC internship. Next one is starting on the 23rd of November. And for our cybersecurity group, we've posted the link in the chat, so you can join the cybersecurity WhatsApp group. And we appreciate everybody's time. And we are wrapping up for tonight. Have a great weekend, everyone. We couldn't give all the shout outs in the chat because of time, but we are wrapping up. We appreciate everybody's time. Stay blessed. Have a safe weekend, and we are going to meet next week, same time. And we are going to come to you with hopefully another panel, and they are going to talk more about what they do on the job. Have a